Sadness often feels like an unwelcome guest, a shadow that lingers when the world expects us to be bright and untroubled. Yet, it is precisely this shadow that reflects the deepest parts of who we are, a mirror showing the corners of ourselves we rarely notice. When we feel misunderstood, when the laughter around us feels hollow, that quiet ache points to an inner life that is sensitive, perceptive, and alive. It is in these moments that we see our own truths more clearly, the truths that are too subtle for the surface of everyday life. To feel sadness deeply is not a flaw, it is a sign of attentiveness, of an awareness that others might never touch. Society, however, seems determined to avoid discomfort at all costs. Smiles are expected, optimism preached, and vulnerability quietly punished. People hide their struggles behind curated images of success, masking the quiet suffering that courses through their lives. Yet, beneath this performance lies a richness that happiness alone cannot provide. Sadness allows us to slow down, to notice the shades and textures of life, to feel fully rather than superficially. In a world addicted to brightness, those who embrace their sorrow often see more, understand more, and connect more profoundly with the invisible threads of experience. Philosophers have long understood the subtle power of sadness. Kierkegaard once suggested that our suffering opens the door to self-awareness and personal depth. It is not merely the experience of pain, but the recognition of what that pain illuminates about our existence. In sadness, we confront our fears, our limitations, and our desires. It challenges us to look inward, to examine not only what we feel but why we feel it, creating a space for insight that fleeting pleasures cannot touch. There is a difference between surface happiness and emotional depth. A laugh shared over a fleeting joke is not the same as the quiet contemplation that follows a profound sense of loss or longing. The former fades quickly, leaving only the memory of amusement, while the latter lingers, shaping perception, refining judgment, and cultivating empathy. The mind that has tasted melancholy often treasures the subtleties of life, the soft curve of a smile, the hesitation in a friend's voice, the weight of a paused conversation. This depth cannot be forced. It emerges only when we allow ourselves to dwell in the shadows, to sit with discomfort without distraction. Sadness also sharpens awareness. When joy comes easily, we often overlook nuance, accepting life as it appears on the surface. But sorrow makes us attentive. A small act of kindness, a fleeting glance, a whispered confession, all of these become vivid and memorable when the heart has learned to pause and notice. The world becomes richer not because it changes, but because we have changed, attuned to subtleties others dismiss. In this attentiveness, we discover a kind of quiet power, the ability to perceive, to feel, and to respond with care. Yet sadness carries a paradox. It appears as weakness to those who value only resilience and cheer, yet it strengthens in ways invisible to the eye. Like a tree bending in the storm, it may sway and tremble under pressure, but in doing so, it grows roots deeper than any rigid branch ever could. Sorrow teaches patience, endurance, and the capacity for understanding. Strength that emerges from discomfort is not loud or showy, it is quiet, grounded, and unshakable, cultivated in the soil of introspection. Reflection becomes a companion to this kind of strength. Sitting alone, journaling thoughts, or walking quietly through a familiar street, we enter a dialogue with ourselves that is impossible in the rush of busyness. Memories, regrets, and dreams surface in these still moments, offering insight without force. This is the kind of reflection that builds wisdom, not from rules or lectures, but from the gentle examination of life as it truly is, moment by moment. In this loneliness, there is also a gift. To feel sadness deeply is to inhabit a rare world, one often unseen and misunderstood by the crowd. While others chase distraction, avoiding pain at all costs, those who embrace their melancholy discover richness in subtlety, beauty in sorrow, and strength in quiet observation. It is a perspective that allows life's textures to emerge, a vision that perceives the extraordinary in the ordinary. Those who move through this world with reflective awareness carry a depth few can match. For anyone who has felt isolated in their thoughts, who has lingered in quiet rooms while the world celebrated noise, there is validation here. Your feelings are not mistakes, nor are they burdens to be hidden. They are evidence of a mind that questions, a heart that notices, and a soul that refuses to settle for superficiality. The solitude of sadness is not emptiness but a space for growth, a realm where understanding can flourish without interruption or compromise. And yet, this is only the beginning. Sadness teaches more than it seems, offering lessons that joy alone cannot provide. Its value lies not in the pain itself but in the awareness it fosters, the wisdom it cultivates, and the depth it reveals within us. In the quiet embrace of sorrow, we encounter truths about the world and ourselves that shape who we are becoming. Soon, we will see how this hidden teacher, often misunderstood, can guide us toward insight, strength, and a perspective that transcends ordinary experience. There are moments when life forces us to stop, whether through loss, disappointment, or quiet disillusionment. In these pauses, the world seems to slow, and we are left with our own thoughts in a way we rarely allow ourselves. Sitting in this stillness, even for a few minutes, opens a space for reflection that is impossible when we rush. The heartache insists that we pay attention, that we notice what we usually ignore. And it is in these moments, however uncomfortable, that insight begins to take shape, forming quietly in the corners of our mind. The pause of pain is not emptiness. It is the first step toward seeing more clearly. Sadness has a way of sharpening our perception. When our minds are weighed down by sorrow, small details stand out: the hesitation in a friend's tone, the subtle tension in a conversation, the fleeting glance that reveals more than words ever could. While others drift through life with distracted eyes, the sorrowful notice these nuances effortlessly. This heightened awareness is not taught. It is earned through experience, through the willingness to feel deeply. In observing the world with this attentiveness, we begin to understand people, situations, and even ourselves in ways that superficial happiness never allows. There is a clarity that comes from contrast. We only recognize the value of warmth after experiencing cold, the sweetness of joy after enduring pain. Loss sharpens the mind in ways that ease cannot. When something is taken, we suddenly see its worth, its subtleties, and its role in our lives. This is the quiet gift of sadness. It draws lines between experiences, showing their shape and significance. Without the shadow, the light would be unremarkable. Only through contrast can perspective emerge, allowing us to see not just what is, but what truly matters. Suffering also opens the door to empathy. When we have felt the sting of disappointment, the ache of rejection, or the heaviness of solitude, we recognize it in others. A glance, a sigh, a trembling hand becomes intelligible because we have lived through the echo ourselves. Quiet acts of kindness, offered not for recognition but from a genuine understanding of pain, have a resonance that cannot be learned from books or advice. Empathy grows where sadness has been invited, transforming personal struggle into connection, and allowing us to reach toward others with subtle, profound understanding. Kierkegaard described anxiety not as weakness, but as a vehicle toward growth. This existential tension arises when we confront the uncertainties of life, the choices we fear to face, and the parts of ourselves we resist. Sadness, too, functions in this way. It forces confrontation with our own truths, our limitations, and our potential. In recognizing the discomfort, we gain insight, and in reflecting on our fears, we slowly cultivate wisdom. Anxiety and sadness are intertwined teachers, guiding us toward clarity and offering lessons that comfort alone could never impart. Sadness encourages reflection in repeated loops. Thoughts circle, revisiting moments, decisions, and feelings until their layers reveal themselves. Like ripples across a quiet pond, each reflection reveals subtle depths beneath the surface. These loops can feel endless at first, even exhausting, yet they uncover understanding we never knew was present. Every repetition strengthens perception, and the mind learns to navigate complexity rather than skim it. Over time, this process allows insight to accumulate slowly but surely, like sediment forming a solid foundation beneath turbulent waters. It also prompts the questioning of assumptions. In melancholy, beliefs once taken for granted begin to appear uncertain. Choices, habits, and long-held opinions are examined with quiet scrutiny. The sadness asks, do you truly know yourself? And in that questioning, we uncover answers previously obscured by routine and distraction. Life, reframed through the lens of sorrow, becomes a field of discovery, where every doubt is an invitation to deeper understanding, and every pause a chance to reconsider who we are and what we value. The mind works slowly in these moments. Wisdom is rarely instantaneous. It is carved patiently, like a sculpture revealed over years, rather than chiseled in a single stroke. Sadness allows this patient work. Insights form gradually, imperceptibly at first, then unmistakably. Each moment of reflection, each encounter with discomfort, acts as a small tool, shaping thought and perception over time. This slow process may feel frustrating to those accustomed to instant answers, but it is precisely what grants depth, subtlety, and resilience to the mind that embraces it. Through struggle, identity itself begins to take shape. The experiences of sorrow and reflection cultivate a self that is rare, thoughtful, and quietly strong. It is a self that does not rely on approval or performance, but understands its own value and meaning. To live with awareness shaped by sadness is to exist in a world few inhabit, a world of subtle observation, profound empathy, and authentic connection to life's hidden textures. This identity is neither loud nor showy, yet it carries an unmistakable sense of belonging to oneself, to a deeper understanding of the human experience. And so, sadness transforms not only perception but potential. The discomfort, reflection, and questioning it brings do not remain static. They ripple outward, influencing thought, feeling, and ultimately action. What begins as pain evolves into a quiet strength, a sharpened mind, and a heart attuned to nuance. The lessons it imparts prepare us for more than understanding. They prepare us for engagement with the world in a way that is measured, perceptive, and uniquely our own. Soon, we will explore how these insights, born of sorrow, can guide action, perception, and the rare clarity that transforms ordinary existence into something profoundly alive. There is a subtle creativity that emerges from melancholy, a quiet spark that brightens only in the stillness of reflection. Many great creators, writers, and thinkers have found insight not in celebration, but in solitude and sorrow. It is in those quiet hours, when the mind is weighted by emotion, that imagination stretches farther, ideas unfold more richly, and solutions appear that the bright surface of happiness could never reveal. This is not about suffering for its own sake, but about allowing space for the mind to wander into corners where originality quietly waits. Even in everyday life, the moments we feel heavy often give rise to small but meaningful acts of invention. Sadness also hones emotional intelligence. The person who has spent time observing pain, quietly reflecting on subtle cues, often understands others more profoundly than the loudest speaker in the room. A thoughtful listener notices hesitation, tone, and the unspoken truths between words. They respond not from impulse but from perception, guiding interactions with a wisdom born of empathy. This subtle persuasion does not dominate but influences gently. Understanding emotions in this way transforms relationships, allowing connection without force, a rare skill that comes naturally to those willing to sit with sorrow rather than evade it. Struggle cultivates resilience, shaping a strength invisible to the world. Those who have endured hardship develop a quiet confidence, a readiness to navigate life's complexities with patience and awareness. A microstory: a young traveler lost in unfamiliar terrain learns to rely not on instinct alone, but on observation, adaptability, and calm. Each difficulty endured becomes preparation, each setback a lesson. In this way, sadness trains the mind and spirit, turning vulnerability into armor. Resilience does not boast. It is quiet, reliable, and deep-rooted, built slowly through experience rather than demanded by circumstance. Kierkegaard suggested that true selfhood emerges in the confrontation with life's tensions. Sadness plays a similar role, creating the conditions for existential awareness. When we accept the discomfort of our own emotions, rather than masking them with conformity, we begin to understand who we are. Depth arises not from fitting into expectations, but from exploring inner landscapes that many avoid. This self-awareness is a form of quiet power, a recognition that life's richness lies less in what we achieve and more in how fully we inhabit each moment, including the moments of sorrow. Sadness deepens relationships, revealing a rare intimacy that fleeting happiness cannot foster. Friendships formed in shared hardship carry a subtle intensity, a trust grounded in authenticity. A small gesture of understanding or a shared acknowledgement of struggle builds bonds that outlast superficial interactions. Those who have embraced their own sadness often perceive vulnerability in others, nurturing connections that are meaningful and enduring. It is in these rare connections that the heart learns the full texture of human experience, finding companionship that is both comforting and profound. With sorrow comes an appreciation for life's subtleties. The sound of wind through trees, the warmth of sunlight after a storm, the delicate cadence of a friend's laugh. These small joys gain vividness when contrasted against quiet pain. A microstory, a person noticing the intricate patterns of a city at dawn, details that others rush past, experiences a sense of wonder amplified by awareness. Sadness opens the senses, allowing perception to deepen, and granting wisdom in recognizing what is often overlooked. This perspective aligns us with a rare tribe, thoughtful, introspective individuals who move through life noticing its hidden layers. It is a form of belonging not based on conformity but on shared awareness. Being part of this quiet minority validates the inner life, reassuring us that depth, reflection, and sensitivity are strengths rather than weaknesses. Among them, silence carries meaning, observation is respected, and thoughtfulness is a currency more valuable than noise. Pain, when attended to, becomes insight. Learning from loss instead of resisting it transforms experience into understanding. Each sorrowful moment, each disappointment, carries lessons about ourselves, about others, and about the subtle ways the world operates. Those who embrace these lessons carry an advantage invisible to those who chase only comfort. They see patterns, understand motivations, and navigate life with a clarity that superficial happiness cannot provide. Sadness also fosters the courage to embrace reality fully. Life's impermanence, the inevitability of change, the unpredictability of circumstance, these truths are easier to accept when we are acquainted with discomfort. A microstory, watching a storm roll across a night sky, one learns to appreciate the transience of both chaos and calm. The heart grows stronger in witnessing impermanence, understanding that courage does not erase fear but allows action despite it. Ultimately, sadness teaches, transforms, and illuminates. The quiet power it offers is not a gift announced with fanfare, but a subtle mastery over perception, empathy, and self-awareness. It prepares the mind and heart for deeper understanding, guiding reflection into wisdom and discomfort into strength. In the next chapter, we will explore how this knowledge moves beyond introspection, shaping not only who we are inside but also how we act, perceive, and engage with the world in a way that is quietly extraordinary. Sometimes the first step is simply observing without judgment. Thoughts drift like clouds across a quiet sky, coming and going without interference. Sitting with sadness in this way allows clarity to emerge naturally. We watch our feelings, not as problems to solve, but as signals, subtle teachers guiding attention. In this calm observation, the mind slows, noticing patterns and nuances previously overlooked. This practice does not demand action or resolution, it is an invitation to presence. By treating emotions as gentle messengers rather than burdens, we cultivate patience, awareness, and a reflective calm that prepares us for wiser choices ahead. Sadness can guide decisions when we listen closely. Emotions reveal priorities, values, and truths we might otherwise ignore. A person faced with a difficult career choice pauses, feeling the weight of excitement and apprehension alike. Instead of rushing, they reflect, allowing sadness to illuminate what truly matters. This quiet clarity shapes decisions with precision, avoiding impulsivity or external pressure. Emotional insight becomes a compass, pointing toward actions aligned with authentic selfhood. In this way, feelings are not obstacles but instruments, guiding toward outcomes that honor both intellect and intuition, blending reflection with practical wisdom. Solitude often serves as the wisest mentor. Walking alone through a quiet street, forest, or empty room provides space to untangle thoughts and process experience. In these moments, the mind is free from distraction, and the heart is free to notice subtleties unnoticed in company. Sadness transforms such solitude into opportunity. Problems, dilemmas, or ideas reveal themselves gradually, like details emerging in fog. This reflective isolation fosters deeper understanding of self and circumstance. By embracing quiet, we learn to trust our internal guidance, to interpret emotions as signals, and to approach challenges with measured insight rather than reactive impulse. Writing crystallizes reflection into tangible insight. Journaling thoughts, small realizations, or even fleeting emotions allows sadness to shape understanding consciously. A simple notebook can become a mirror, revealing recurring patterns, hidden hopes, and subtle lessons. The act of writing slows thought, permitting the mind to organize and digest experiences rather than letting them drift unexamined. This process cultivates clarity and preserves insight that might otherwise be lost. By putting sadness into words, we transform ephemeral feeling into knowledge, capturing wisdom born of reflection. Over time, these written reflections form a quiet archive of understanding, available for guidance and contemplation. Emotional literacy grows through attentive engagement with sadness. When we experience depth in our own feelings, we begin to recognize it in others. A subtle gesture, a fleeting glance, or a pause in speech carries meaning once unnoticed. A friend struggling in silence becomes legible, and we respond with empathy informed by experience. Sadness sharpens perception, teaching us the unspoken language of human emotion. Recognizing and honoring these signals builds connection and trust. By attending to both our own and others' emotional landscapes, we cultivate compassion and understanding, navigating relationships with sensitivity that is rare and profoundly valuable. Small, quiet actions carry amplified significance when performed mindfully. Offering a hand to someone struggling, noticing a detail others ignore, or speaking words of care without expectation, these gestures grow from the same reflective attention cultivated through sadness. Each act may seem minor, yet collectively, they shape lives, shift moods, and foster connection. They embody agency in subtle, non-dominating ways, reinforcing the idea that wisdom is not only thought but also practiced in gentle, thoughtful engagement. Through these actions, the insights of reflection ripple outward, transforming understanding into tangible, real-world impact without noise or display. Loss can be reframed when viewed through the lens of wisdom. Failure, rejection, or endings often carry hidden lessons if approached with attention rather than denial. A person experiencing a setback pauses to examine what it revealed about priorities, choices, or patterns. In this reframing, sadness shifts from punishment to guide, illuminating new paths or opportunities previously invisible. Lessons drawn from adversity enrich perspective and cultivate resilience. The mind begins to anticipate, adapt, and respond with measured insight. By transforming negative loops into learning, the heart softens and strengthens simultaneously, finding meaning in what might initially appear senseless. Patience emerges as one of sadness' quietest powers. Just as a mountain river slowly carves valleys over centuries, the mind shaped by reflective sorrow learns that insight cannot be rushed. The process of understanding, integrating, and acting on emotional awareness unfolds gradually. Impatience dissolves in the presence of sustained observation, leaving a steadiness that guides decisions and relationships alike. Time becomes an ally rather than an enemy, and wisdom gains density and depth. In this slow cultivation, the mind achieves a quiet mastery over impulse, perspective, and judgment, allowing life to be approached with a calm deliberation often absent in those seeking immediate gratification. Maintaining calm through chaos is another gift of sadness. Even in turbulent environments or emotional storms, those familiar with reflective sorrow navigate with steadiness. Visualizing a serene lake amidst a tempest, or feeling the rhythm of breath against tension, provides refuge. This calm is not denial of difficulty but a conscious presence within it, allowing perception and action to remain clear. Subtle awareness of the environment, others' cues, and internal state fosters measured response. By cultivating this inner equilibrium, we experience both aesthetic and emotional satisfaction, learning that even amid life's unpredictability, serenity can be accessed and sustained. Ultimately, sadness is a gift, quietly teaching insight, empathy, and resilience. It equips us to observe, reflect, and act with depth. The lessons it imparts prepare us for meaningful engagement with life, relationships, and self-understanding. While initially uncomfortable, the wisdom extracted from reflective sorrow grows into a rare kind of power, one that shapes thought, behavior, and perception. In the final chapter, we will explore the broader implications of this gift, elevating our understanding of sadness from personal insight to universal guidance, revealing how it transforms not only the mind but the way we inhabit the world. Sadness remains a lifelong teacher, quietly guiding reflection across decades. An individual who has moved through repeated sorrow learns to recognize patterns, subtle cues, and enduring truths that others overlook. Every disappointment, every quiet night of contemplation, contributes to a personal archive of understanding. Over time, the lessons accumulate, forming a kind of wisdom that is both gentle and profound. The heart learns to listen, the mind learns to pause, and the soul grows accustomed to depth. Sadness, once feared or avoided, becomes a companion, a patient mentor that reveals the texture of life in ways fleeting happiness never could. Acceptance brings empowerment. Recognizing our limits and vulnerabilities does not diminish us, it liberates. A person who embraces their constraints, their own fragility, finds freedom from relentless comparison and expectation. In these moments, the pressure to perform, to appear invulnerable, falls away, leaving a calm confidence rooted in authenticity. Understanding what cannot be changed allows focus on what can, while the weight of impossible standards lifts. This emotional clarity nurtures identity, affirming that the thoughtful, reflective, and sensitive are not flawed, but rare. In embracing limits, strength quietly emerges, anchored in self-awareness rather than external validation. There is beauty in vulnerability, a courage that few cultivate in a world demanding superficial composure. The willingness to feel deeply, to sit with discomfort, and to expose inner truths fosters strength invisible to the casual observer. A person who allows themselves to experience sorrow fully develops empathy, creativity, and insight. Vulnerability is not weakness, it is the capacity to live authentically, to respond to life's complexities with honesty rather than avoidance. By acknowledging pain without judgment, we gain resilience and perspective. In a society where most hide behind masks, this openness becomes a rare and luminous trait, quietly shaping character and perception alike. Connection grows through shared struggle, revealing a hidden network of understanding among those attuned to depth. A whispered confession, a knowing glance, or a moment of shared grief establishes bonds that transcend superficial interaction. Those who have embraced sadness recognize its markers in others, and empathy bridges distance. In these rare relationships, individuals feel seen, understood, and valued without pretense. The solidarity formed through mutual awareness of pain nurtures belonging to a thoughtful minority. Through shared struggle, the isolated find resonance, discovering that their quiet depth is mirrored in others, and that connection does not require performance but understanding and authenticity. Kierkegaard's insight reminds us that life's tension is where true selfhood emerges. Existential reflection, prompted by moments of sadness, illuminates the paths we might otherwise overlook. By confronting uncertainty and emotional discomfort, the individual cultivates a sense of purpose and awareness beyond superficial conformity. The recognition that suffering is not merely an obstacle but a teacher anchors the mind in calm acceptance. Philosophical clarity arises naturally when we honor the subtle signals of emotion and introspection. In this way, sadness becomes a guide, revealing not only who we are but who we might become when we approach life with attentiveness and courage. Practical reflection reinforces insight and calm. A simple exercise of noticing emotions, writing thoughts, or sitting quietly with a single question invites understanding without force. Observing the ebb and flow of feeling, labeling subtle nuances, or noting recurring patterns allows the mind to organize experiences. This gentle practice turns ephemeral awareness into structured reflection, creating space for clarity and calm. Over time, repeated attention nurtures wisdom, teaching the value of patience and observation. The act itself is soothing, like tracing ripples on a still pond, fostering a rhythm that guides thought and emotion toward equilibrium while deepening the awareness cultivated by sadness. Challenges can be reframed through perspective, transforming hardship into guidance. A failed endeavor, a broken relationship, or a sudden loss can illuminate priorities, reveal hidden strengths, or suggest new directions. By interpreting sadness as a signal rather than a sentence, the mind cultivates resilience and purpose. Lessons gleaned from difficulty shape decisions, enrich relationships, and inform the understanding of self and world. In this reframing, pain becomes meaningful, guiding rather than limiting. Emotional suffering, approached thoughtfully, provides both insight and motivation, helping the individual navigate life with an awareness and intentionality that superficial happiness rarely encourages. Those shaped by reflective sadness carry an identity distinct from the majority. Their awareness, patience, and depth align them with a thoughtful minority, individuals attuned to subtlety, insight, and empathy. In this quiet community, value is measured by understanding rather than performance, connection rather than superficial approval. Recognizing oneself as part of this rare tribe validates sensitivity, reflection, and depth as strengths. This identity is not boastful but quietly reassuring, a grounding presence in a world that often prizes noise over contemplation. Belonging here confirms that thoughtful introspection, cultivated through sorrow, is both meaningful and exceptional. Final emotional resonance emerges in the gentle cadence of reflection. Imagery, memory, and insight blend, evoking a calm awareness of life's richness. The mind lingers on the textures of experience, the subtle satisfaction of understanding, the warmth of empathy, the quiet pride of authenticity. This resonance does not demand action or resolution. It simply exists, allowing the viewer to feel, absorb, and integrate. Like a twilight breeze, it moves softly, leaving space for contemplation and gratitude. In these moments, the weight of sadness is transformed into a companionable presence, an ongoing source of clarity, depth, and understanding that quietly permeates thought. Even as this chapter closes, curiosity persists. The wisdom born of sadness suggests further insights remain, waiting for observation and reflection. The journey does not end with comprehension but continues through attentive living, mindful engagement, and the gentle study of emotion. The mind and heart, trained by sorrow, become more receptive to subtle patterns, deeper truths, and hidden opportunities. In embracing this ongoing exploration, the viewer is invited to return to experience, reflection, and feeling, recognizing that each encounter with emotion carries the potential for growth, understanding, and a quietly profound enrichment of life.